Welcome to the Business of Thinking podcast. This is the place for high achievers who want more than motivation. They want mastery. Here we skip the surface level talk and go straight into the psychology of high performance.
Hello and welcome again to the Business of Thinking. My name is Reid, and today I'm joined by Chris Lovett, who's a coach, an author and a keynote speaker. And before we introduce Chris properly, welcome Chris, fantastic to have you here. I've been reading up about stats around stress and burnout, and it's quite scary, isn't it? You know, it's something like 79% of the UK population are estimated to have had some form of burnout in the last 12 months. And I guess this sort of lends itself to some of the things that perhaps you're going to talk about today. So I'd be interested to hear something about that. But let's start by talking a bit about you. Tell us how you've arrived at doing what you do now.
Oh, thanks, Richard. It's a pleasure to see you, and thanks for having this chat. It's great. The story starts a bit ridiculous, really. I stepped on a CD case. Do you remember them? Remember when we used to collect CDs? So yes. Back in kind of 2016, 2017, I was living in a small flat in South London, and that flat was cluttered full of stuff. And one weekend, as I was not getting rid of things, I was organising my mess or my hoard of stuff. I stepped on a CD case. And for those who are into music, it was Mark Morrison, Return of the Mac, which was from
Blast from the Past.
Yeah, which is from 1995, which gives you an indication as to how long I'd retained that CD for. And for those of you who have seen Fawlty Towers, or familiar with the character Basil Fawlty, you'll know that he continues to have stress build up throughout each episode of Fawlty Towers, and there's something very minor that takes him over the edge. And for me, it was stepping on a CD case, and I turned into a bit of a combination of the Incredible Hulk and Danny Dyer, and just got really angry about my stuff. And the reason for it was just that my living space was full of stuff that I didn't really need or weren't using anymore. So by the end of that weekend, I had sold or donated or recycled hundreds and hundreds of things in my living space that I wasn't using anymore. So DVDs, CDs, books I'd never read, video games that I'd played and completed years ago and just kept on and held on to. And I managed to sell some of them, which gave me, I remember the exact figure, Richard, as well. It was £156, right, which isn't a lot if you accumulate like 20 years worth of stuff. And that money gave me the impetus to buy a plane ticket to go to Copenhagen, which then started an odyssey of traveling around the world. So after I'd stepped on that CD case, I thought, I've got too much stuff. And then you start to reflect back on, why have I held on to all this stuff for so long? And I'd held on to a career for so long. I'd lived in the same part of London pretty much all my adult life. And I was like, I think it's time to let go. So I pretty much then sold everything in my flat. So all there's kitchen utensils, cutlery, and then it was clothes, and then it was furniture, tech, all sorts.
What kind of time scale are we talking here for all this stuff disappearing?
Oh, from I think it was February 2017 to July. So over that period of time, it was a slow
short period.
Yeah, so it was a slowly releasing things, and with that money, then gave me impetus to then buy further plane tickets, and then I sold my flat, sold my car, took a sabbatical, and I just had a backpack full of a few clothes, a little bit of tech, passport and money, and off I went around the world. And it was at that point I realised that, you know, the classic cliche of less is more. And I went on this massive journey around the world and had so many wonderful experiences. And it didn't relate to anything physically wise that I'd collected over the last 20 years. Like the t-shirts didn't matter, the video games didn't matter. I grew as an individual. And when I came back to the UK, I stepped back into real life, into the corporate world, with this new view of like, well, you don't have to collect all of this stuff to enjoy the best bits of life. And as I sat on a desk with my colleagues who are just ridiculously busy, running to meeting with, complaining about their ever-larging email inbox and working considerably late every day, I was like, maybe this is a thing in work. So I started to let go of tasks and responsibilities that I've been hoarding at work for so long, and realised that we can achieve so much more if we just let go of the stuff that doesn't really matter. So I implemented that at work. And here we are now in 2026 with 2 books, a TEDx talk, and thousands of clients around the world who have simplified not just their personal life, but their professional life, so they can achieve the things that matter. So I suppose I've got a little bit to thank Mark Morrison for. If he's listening, thank you, Mark. So that's stepping on that CD case then caused the ripple effect that led us here today, Richard.
It's funny how it goes, and one of the reasons I'm smiling is because I can absolutely relate to that.
Because you've got that CD.
I did have that CD, yeah. I've now got it on download, I'm ashamed to say. But no, I did a very similar thing. I gave up a career to go travelling. And when I was travelling, that's when I decided to become a therapist, and my career sort of snowballed from there. So I can definitely relate to that. And it's interesting, isn't it, that sometimes it's only when you step out of a system that you can see it for what it is.
Yeah.
When you're immersed in it, you can't see the wood from the trees.
Yeah, exactly. And you get caught in all these, what I call like entrenched narratives. So over time, you keep telling yourself these stories, and whether or not they're true, if you keep repeating them, they become your truth. So things like, I must have a label, or I must have this title, or I must earn this amount of money to be happy or to feel successful, because you're in that system where everyone is very similar. But I found that the counter-cultural approach to success worked for me. And then as soon as I shared the story and the relatability of it all, with like, everybody's got books that they don't read, that are left in their house. Everybody's got clothes that they don't wear, where they create these stories of like, when I do this thing, I'll wear that thing. When I lose weight, when I do that, when I go to my next fancy dress party that I've never been to in my life, I'll wear that thing. So we create all these narratives that keep us stuck. And so all I've basically done over the last few years is help people just to reframe those narratives and kind of go, what could you achieve if you just let go of that thing? And I know that letting go is hard. So it's a fabulous journey for people that go on it. But I'll be intrigued afterwards to know where you went travelling, if we crossed over at any point.
Yeah, almost certainly. But I think it's really interesting the points that you make there. And I'm guessing it can be tremendously freeing to let go of things, systems, objects. I guess it can also be quite scary as well. If you've grown up, as you say, in a system where everybody is behaving in a particular way, it can be very challenging to step away from that received wisdom, can't it?
Oh, massively. And there's a fear behind a lot of it. It goes all the way back to our caveman days, when if we were almost like removed from the group dynamics or kind of ostracized, you didn't get access to heat or protection or food or anything like that. And we've still got that inside of us. And then we move into like a workplace system. If you say no to the authority figures, like a boss, for example, you fear there's a risk of exclusion, or I'm not going to get offered that opportunity again, or maybe they think I'm not fully on board or anything like that. But if we reframe that now in a case of, if you say yes to everything, it's borderline chaos. So the kind of middle ground we reach to make it safe for people to do that is that you do the most tiniest experiment where no one really is going to notice. And it is that simple thing of leaving a meeting 5 minutes early because you've got another one coming up in 5 minutes. So, because nobody will
makes sense on the face of it, doesn't it?
But there you go, right? And it doesn't. People other people are far too busy to notice what you're doing. So actually what might seem as a very small bit of rebellion to you, the likelihood is no one's really going to notice. And then over time, you start to kind of redesign your whole approach to a sustainable working life. And so, whether it is you actually sign off on time, or whether it is you don't respond immediately to the Slack or Teams message that comes straight through your inbox and takes your attention away, is these tiny little kind of reframes that help people to create a bit more of a sustainable approach to life. And I'm trying to help teams, individuals, and organizations use simplicity as their competitive advantage, because everybody is ridiculously busy. And so how do
it's also a badge as well, isn't it?
It's a badge.
It's a badge quite often to be seen to be busy.
Yeah. And there's the stats around our health and burnout and various other bits are just only going one way. They're incredibly bad. So how do you differentiate yourself without impacting on your performance? And the actual approach is to just do a little bit less than everybody else, because once you look at all the stats, you'll see that people waste an incredible amount of time on stuff that doesn't really matter. And if your approach to stuff is, I'm going to deliver impactful change in a sustainable approach, brilliant. So that's what we do. We use simplicity as a bit of a competitive advantage, and it's fun to let go of stuff sometimes. So you see the waste that happens. You go, I can stop doing something. I can stop going to that meeting. Yes, please.
Imagine that. Yeah. So it sounds like what you're talking about in therapy terms is sort of graded exposure, isn't it? That actually I don't jump off the edge of a cliff. It's gradual steps. And I was just thinking about what we spoke about a moment ago. We spoke about how people often feel threatened or scared at the idea of changing some of these things. But I guess if as a team you can make a collective commitment to doing these things, or if as a leader you can set the tempo and the pace and the template for these things, I guess it potentially becomes a little bit easier, doesn't it?
That's right. And offering opportunities for people to take work out of their day can be incredibly empowering as well. So the likelihood is that a lot of people, and I work with different organisations, and the theme tends to be the same. Everything feels important. There's too much to do. We don't have enough time, resource, energy. We're asked to do more with less. There's threats of change happening everywhere. Redundancies. AI is going to take my job. I get it. I'm in it every day. But once you are able to regain a little bit of control over your collective approach to what you're going to deliver and how you're going to do it, you can then start to chip away at the things that used to be really important, like the stuff we keep in our home, but now maybe not so much. So it used to be various things that I used to love having around my home. I've put too many jumpers through the tumble dryer, so they don't fit anymore. Right? So there'd be days where I'd be like, this is now a crop top. The world has changed. Stuff has changed, right? I'm not going to keep it just because, one day it might be useful. That thing has changed, and the importance of that has now changed. And it's similar to our tasks. Maybe a year ago, that recurring meeting was really important. So we would go to it. Now something else is different. Doesn't mean you still have to keep going to that recurring meeting all the time now. So it's
being dynamic and being mindful and more purposeful, isn't it?
That's it.
Reflecting on things on an ongoing basis.
That's it. And the good thing is that you can do that from an individual perspective without torpedoing your job. You can do it at such a small scale that no one will really notice. And then you can do it at scale by teams or even organizations giving permission from the top down and saying, no meetings on Wednesdays. So some organizations do this already, where they get feedback from their people, and they understand that they waste a lot of time where there's like too many people join the meeting, or they run on for too long, again,
or no agenda,
or no
people
agenda,
doing their thinking as they go along, and that's not effective for everybody's time.
There you go, right? And so the stats on wasted time in meetings is endless. You can get dozens and dozens and dozens of areas you can find, but yeah. So sometimes it takes the seniority to provide a certain level of permission, but from an individual perspective, you've got opportunity to not bother waiting for that. Just give yourself permission to make the smallest little rebellion and leave 5 minutes early, turn up 5 minutes, leave 5 minutes early, turn up 5 minutes late, whatever it is, that gives you that bit of evidence to know that it's safe. So as soon as you get that one tiny little bit of evidence or data to go, I did a thing, and either no one noticed, no one complained, nothing changed, I didn't get fired, right? It allows you to then do it again. And then over time, you become a cultural role model, because then people start following you. And they're kind of, oh, Richard, you going to this meeting today? You're like, I am, but because I've got one that finishes just before, I'll be about 5 minutes late just so I can get prepped for this one and be with you and be really present. And be like, oh, wow, he's really organised. How organised are you? Whereas, on the face of it, if you look at someone's calendar, it looks like Tetris gone wrong or right, depending on how you look at it.
Three meetings at the same time.
Yeah. These
crazy things like that.
It's chaos. And if you're someone who is responsible for big products or many people and their careers and their livelihoods, and you know that you're in back-to-back meetings all day, every day, for weeks, that is chaos. And so that is not high performance. And if you compare it with, say, athletes, for example, you don't see a sprinter sprinting for 10 hours a day.
Absolutely not. No, it's doing things for maximum impact, isn't it? Rather than doing it because that's what I always do. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So there's a lot in what you do, which is about cutting back on things. I'm just thinking about the other side of things. Sometimes maybe it's also about thinking about how you protect or boost your energy. So even things like having a proper lunch break or going to the gym or having a night where you go home on time or see your friends or your family, they're often the things that we think about, well, I'll do that when I've done this, and inevitably they don't happen or happen in the way that they need to. So some of this is also about ring fencing things, non-negotiables.
Yeah, and I love the fact you brought up lunch breaks. That's great. It's like
fancy that, a luxury.
Oh, no, right. I think the lunch break eventually will die out, and it'll be one of those things that we talk about to our grandkids. Oh, do you remember when we used to have lunch breaks? It was like Blockbuster Video or ringing the house phone or something like that. So there was
thought, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, the stats back this up. So I think in 2014, the average lunch hour was 43 minutes. I think now, when we get into 2026 and into 2030 and beyond, the average lunch hour is predicted to be about 20 minutes. And so by the time we get old, mate, that'll be gone. We've got this narrative and this kind of social approach where we're hopefully coming out of this kind of hustle bro culture that we had probably around a decade. Lots of entrepreneurial approaches of wake up at 5 a.m, hustle hard, and you'll get your rewards. What we're tending to find now is if you do that, you risk your health and your life and your relationships. So we've got this narrative around that we can get that rest after we've done a hard graft. So it's a reward at the end, right? But all the data, all the science, all the case studies, they point to the different stories. Like rest, recovery equals high performance. Because if you don't implement them strategically, your attention will start to drop. You'll start to listen less. Everything will start to degrade over the course of the day. And if you're making big decisions throughout the day, and you're strolling into your 8th back-to-back meeting at 4:30 about someone's career, you're probably only working at about 60% of your capability. Again, going back to, if you're a high-paid, high-powered role model in an organisation, that's not good enough. And so simply having your lunch break is one of the most most sustainable, high-performing things you can do. And it's amazing how many people skip it, reduce it, or even just have no breaks throughout the day at all because they feel that they must continue on this train of doing. We know that
and it's a false economy in a way, isn't it, to be doing that? As you say, it's diminishing returns.
Exactly. Yeah, the law of diminishing returns. Yeah, it's been around for centuries, right? I think I remember reading about that appearing, and it was about crops. And if you put more fertilizer on crops, the expectation was you just get more yield, right?
Yeah.
But then once tested, it was like, well, actually, you're just destroying the crops. So there was a sweet spot. And it's the same with our mental capacity. And deep down, we all know it. Right? If we're working late into the night, you're looking at an email or a slide deck or whatever it is, and it's taking you about an hour to come up with it one line. At that point that you've hit the wall. And what some of the research that I've found and put into Relentless is that we've seen huge kind of organisational mistakes and challenges that have occurred because people have been pushed beyond their limits.
Yeah.
So I think the Volkswagen diesel scandal, I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah, where there was a massive recall and the whole sort of legal case.
Yeah. So that was because people were pushed to hit deadlines beyond their normal contracting hours. And there's various other examples of that where organisations have faced the problem. But the issue is, as an individual that is working over your allotted hours, you don't recognise the mistake in the moment. Only later on does that mistake come to life when you might have moved on, right? So you might have already been celebrating that you delivered an amazing project because you worked, 27 hours a day for 8 days a week, right? Yeah. Left the organisation off, celebrated, got your next big role. A year later, someone else is picking up your shit and kind of going, look what this idiot did.
Yeah. And as an individual, you don't necessarily make that connection. As you say, you've moved on, or the difference is it's a slow build-up, isn't it? Rather than I don't do this and immediately see the results and impact of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the amount of clients I've coached, and I'll be like, how are you getting on? And they'll be like, oh, it's horrible at the moment. I'm like, why is that? I'll be dealing with this regulatory issue and this fine that we've got because someone did something wrong 2 years ago. And I'm like, I wonder if they overworked during that period, Richard.
Yeah. So, it's really interesting what you're saying about, we're just trying to pack stuff into every minute of every day as though that's somehow giving us an advantage. And clearly it's not. I mean, the other thing I notice is that people tend to treat each moment of the day as being equal. And actually, you think about all of us, we've all got working preferences, haven't we? Different times when we've got energy, typical energy fluctuations, but also day to day our energy changes. And we often lose sight of that, don't we? And think that actually it's just a case of ploughing through.
The old plough through. Yeah, I've been there. I used to do it, treat every single minute as if it was super important, every single task as if it was weighted exactly the same, and request. I think maybe this comes from making loads of mistakes, but you get to understand how your mind and body works best. I think naturally our rhythm tends to take a dip about 2 o'clock-ish.
Yeah.
Irrelevant of whether you've had a heavy lunch or not. And so at that time, you kind of take a step back and kind of go, right, what is the best use of my skills and experience at this time? Is it low-value admin? So actually between 8 and 1, do I do the heavy lifting in regards to my thinking? Because that's my creative sweet spot. And then as the day progresses, okay, right, now it's time for emails. Or now it's time for me to clear down the lower value tasks.
Yeah.
So there is an element of us knowing that. But yeah, I think generally just after lunch, that dip, you'll know if you've gone out and done speaking engagements and you look at the time you're on.
Speaking engagements
and you're like,
training sessions. It's the graveyard shift, isn't it?
Yeah.
2:00 in the afternoon. Yeah,
that's it. And we call it that because we know it. And so when we're looking at achieving high impactful things that make a difference, just do them early. Do them early in the morning, and then do the lower value stuff when you know you've exceeded your capacity.
Yeah, makes sense. So tell us about some of the types of organisations and individuals that you work with. Are there particular industries or types of people that most readily lend themselves to the kind of work that you do, or is it quite varied?
It's all sorts, yeah. So at the moment, I've got a career portfolio, so I do a lot of my stuff in banks, which is heavily regulated, but also got a lot of issues around staff doing way too many things. Big organisations tend to get stuck in this because you've got multiple competing priorities. So yeah, financial services is an area. I've got small tech firms. So when smaller companies, like maybe under 1,000 employees, it's easier to implement organisational change. So they're a bit more agile, so they can shift. So if the CEO or the power in that system says, Richard, you know what? I don't want any more than 5 people attending meetings. It's easier for it to move through the organisation.
Cascade down.
You'll be surprised how many times that rubber bands backwards after about 3 months anyway. And they'll be like, oh, okay, we invite the 6th person, and then it becomes 10, and then the time moves on. And you're like, I thought I gave you permission to not do this. So that is constant.
Old habits die hard. Yeah,
that's it. And then anything from individuals in those organisations to the teams in the organisations or the organisation as a whole and scale. So it really does vary. But yeah, we're trying to use that spectrum of simplification as a competitive advantage, both for your health and for your business as well.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking what that must be like for people when they do implement this. It's a greater sense of autonomy, isn't it? Rather than things happening to you, you are making conscious choices about how you operate.
Yeah, it's the classic cliche of, if you're empowered and you own part of the decision-making process, you're more likely to lean into it. Whereas if you are told to do something, there's a little bit of resistance that it's not your idea. So when you provide accountability and ownership to people to say, you look after your approach to work. I don't care what you do, how you do it, just make it sustainable and deliver the things that matter. And so you'll have different people who will approach that in a completely different way. And it might be that they get their energy from other people. So they love going to the meetings. Or they might go, actually, I'd prefer to dip out halfway through because I know that I've got this big thing to do. So yeah, every time I sit with teams, I'm like, right, we're going to get rid of stuff. People see the look on people's faces. There's a bit of panic, but also a little bit of excitement. Oh, I get to redesign my own approach. And when you do it at scale, it's fascinating to see the psychology of what happens and what people hold on to and why. So yeah, not just the practicalities of letting things go or simplifying your work, but the layers of psychology and our human behaviours are just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. So our classic audience for this show is entrepreneurs. You mentioned entrepreneurs, but also business professionals. Have you had to give 3 pointers for things that people could focus on in order to free time and energy, what would be the sort of classic 3 things that you would point to?
Yeah, well, the first thing is the narratives that we've been led to believe around where you get your solutions and your creative ideas from. Stop working harder. So the best places to get ideas are not at your screen. So they are out in nature. They are taking showers. So there's a thing called the incubation effect.
So
you get
so true.
Yeah. So, and my mate texted me the other day because I posted a thing on Instagram about if you want to get ideas, have a shower. And within an hour, he texted me. I've not heard this from this guy for about 2.5 years, Richard, right? And he texted me, he goes, "God damn, I've just seen your Instagram post and I went for a shower to see if it would work. And I've got 4 ideas that are going to help you with the solution." And I was like, nice to hear from you. Glad it worked.
Yeah.
And also napping as well. So again, these kind of counter cultural things give your brain a different way to connect dots, which might not have happened if you just continue to look at the screen. So wherever you get your ideas from, spend more time there. So mine are sometimes in traffic, like driving. So if I'm stuck, I'll go, well, rather than just me just ploughing through and working harder and waiting for the moment to come, I try and be proactive. Right, I'm going to go out for a walk. I'll just listen to music, go out for a little stroll. About 20 minutes, like, bang, something will pop up. Be like, oh,
yeah,
that's wasn't exactly the idea I was thinking of. This is completely different. This could work. And so there's that bit. The second part of that, so number 2, is get your ideas out very, very quickly, because your brain is not there to store ideas. It's there to present them.
The wisp, isn't it?
Yeah. You go, here you go, Richard. Here's a thing. And you'll sit there and be like, that's bloody good days. Thank you, brain. And then you wander off and you'll go, oh no, let's go to the fridge, make yourself lunch. About an hour later, you'll be like, I'm sure there was an idea there of some sort. It's just been flushed.
It's so frustrating. You can't get it back.
Oh, it's the worst. Yeah. It's the worst. It's the worst thing. Like a void. There was something there. I have no idea what it is now. And you try and retrace your steps. So you're like, what was I doing when that idea? So the plan is get it out quickly and do it whatever way you want to do it. So I tend to use voice notes or just notes on my phone where I'm walking along or even on a train, something random just popped into my head and I'm like, that's bloody good days. Write it down and then leave it and it's gone. Then it will disappear. And then maybe a week later, you'll have another idea and you'll go back to it and you'll be like, oh, bloody hell, yeah. I forgot about that. Now let's implement that thing. So definitely get your ideas out quickly. You'll be surprised how many you collect over a period of time. And that's a much better collection than collecting T-shirts that don't fit or jumpers that are now crop tops.
Yeah.
And going back to entrepreneurial things is get bored. So another kind of counterculture thing is
couldn't agree more. You see it with kids as well now that actually you're not allowed to be bored. You've got to be doing something all the time.
Yeah,
something organised and structured.
Yeah. So the social narratives again that we've kind of been brought up with is boredom is a bad thing. It means that you haven't got enough going on, things like that. But again, the science tells us something different. So I'll give you a list, Richard, of all the creative things that have come out of boredom. So Rolling Stones riff, Satisfaction, that was by Keith Richards, who was sitting in his hotel room bored. Joni Mitchell.
Including the words, I guess. Yeah.
There you go, right? Can't get them.
Yeah.
Joni Mitchell, another artist, one of her biggest hits was created while she was looking out of a window, homesick, in Hawaii.
Is this big yellow taxi?
That's the one. You've also got Eric Clapton, Wonderful Tonight. That was whilst he was waiting for his girlfriend to get ready for a party.
Yeah.
But probably the biggest one is J.K. Rowling, who came up with a boy who goes to a wizarding school on the train. So she was bored without access to magazines, pen, paper, on a train from Manchester to, of course, London, King's Cross. And she just had that idea because the brain was looking for variety because it didn't have anything to do. So it basically gave, here's a thing, connect those. and a new idea comes to fruition. But the challenge is, in our kind of entrepreneurial approach, is that you are bombarded at the moment with do these three things, and then literally the day after, you'll have someone say, don't do these three things. So it's what I call advice pollution. And I'm conscious that I've just given three things, right? But the counterculture approach is scientifically proven to work.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. You talked about doing, and what we're talking about here is being, isn't it?
That's
it's
it.
Being. So you're open to influence and ideas. And when you're doing, you can't be doing that. You can't be achieving that.
Yeah, that's it. And no one gives you props for the amount of hours of work you've done. It's about the thing you have produced or the impact that you've had on people's lives, or the product or service that helps people do something or be better. So that's pretty much what you're judged on. That's the measure of success. So no one really cares about how many hours you've worked. They just care about how it is that you've helped them. So there'll be days where I'll work 1 or 2 hours, but I will come up with a chapter for the book, and I'll be like, yeah, done it. And sometimes, honestly, Richard, sometimes I'll be sitting on the sofa, just sitting at the wall, looking at the wall, and my partner will come downstairs and she'll be like, busy day, babe. And I'll be like, yeah, I've just created a thing that will going to help this person. And so in comparison, where she's been grafting all day, there's that element of like, what are you doing lazy on the sofa? Well, actually, this is my creative spot.
That's it, isn't it? It's a guilt thing. I can remember this as a kid, summer holidays, parents coming home, what have you done today?
Yeah.
And, feeling like you've got to justify your time. And there's me being a creative genius.
Exactly.
I totally agree. The other thing I find is sometimes when you are not trying to force an issue, in other words, when you're creating space for things to emerge, your subconscious mind does a lot of the work for you. So, for example, if I'm giving a presentation or thinking about a particular project, actually, when I don't actively think about it, but I create space, it formulates in the background. So when I do come to actively focus on something, it comes out far quicker.
Yeah, brilliant.
So I was trying too hard.
That's exactly it. And I think that there's elements of allowing different types of preparation. So I always speak to lots of different types of people who do speaking engagements or coaching or facilitation, and they will prep to the nth degree. And sometimes I will turn up and be like, my prep is I've had a really good night's sleep and everything's in my bag. I'm ready to go. I've done traditionally minimal prep in like remembering your lines or remembering it, because I've done the prep 10 years ago, like prepping my body, prepping my mind, making sure that my energy is at the right level, making sure that I know the audience and I can sense what needs to change in the moment. So if the audience is a little bit flat, I need to go over here. Or if this particular thing isn't working, I need to change it. So there is a thing I kind of supporting people with, is different types of preparation as well. So
and that's kind of it's trust in a way. It's trusting yourself to be enough. And my sense is a lot of people don't do that. I've got to map this out to the nth degree because I don't have enough confidence in myself to be able to deal with things in the moment.
Bang on. That's it. Spot on. And I think once you've done a certain amount of reps and you know how many times you've prepped and never used the stuff that you've prepped, I think that's how many times you kind of go, well, I prepped all of that, and within 5 minutes I ripped it up and we went in a different direction that I didn't prep for. So that's what tends to happen. If you're in the moment a bit more, you're able to pivot seamlessly and quickly, which helps a lot more people at scale as well.
Absolutely. And it makes me think of an episode I had a few months ago where I was delivering some work for a bank. and it was through a third party, and all the preparation I'd done wasn't actually what the client wanted. And when I turned up there and asked them, what do you want to get out of today? It wasn't any of the things I've been told about. and it really was about trusting myself to be able to deal with it. And actually, not blow my own trumpet, but they absolutely loved it because we dealt with what was happening in the moment.
Yeah, and that's the preparation. You've prepared for the pivot. And I think that's probably where we're at societal-wise and in business, because things are changing so quickly. People who are able to work and move forward in that ambiguous approach will be probably the ones that have more comfort and success, because I remember having to make everything perfect before making that next step. I think those days are gone now. I think you're going to just have to just move forward without having all of the answers, without knowing what might come next, but just having that, I guess, that bravery and that courage to step into the space and kind of go, I don't have all the answers right now. I've got a rough idea, but between us, we'll figure it out. And I think a lot more.
It's always been important, but I think more so as we go on.
Yeah.
Things change so quickly, don't they? Yeah.
That's it. Like my jumpers that have gone through the tumble dryer. I had to pivot.
I need to see some photos of you in these crop tops. I think the audience is crying out for it.
Well, if you follow me on Instagram, no, I'm not joking. They were
promises.
That's it. I remember looking at it going, oh dear, yeah, that's going to need to get myself a new jumper. I'm like, that's the third time I've done this. What is going on here? Is it a machine thing or is it a me thing? It's a me thing. But yeah, I won't be doing that again.
Yeah, I think there's one common denominator. Yeah. Fantastic. So tell us a little bit about the book. So you mentioned Relentless. Talk us through briefly what it involves, who it appeals to.
Yeah, so Relentless is the second book, and the background is I failed English when I was younger, Richard. So when I was at school, I had a fascination with creative stories. Deep down, I wanted to be a football journalist to combine my passions of watching football and writing. So I did an English literature course, and I failed it. And so that story of you are a failure, you can't write anything, stuck with me for decades. Until I started writing some articles about the whole decluttering journey. And at that point, it started to resonate with people, and then it clicked. So at 37, 38, I then started writing my first book called Discover Less. Literally after doing that was then I went back into the workplace and started to discover this whole approach to simplification. And I came up with a title called Relentless, which kept the theme of less is more. And that term I heard from many, many people. I'm like, how are you getting on? How are you feeling? Like, it's just relentless. And I'm like, thank you for that.
So true.
I'll give you royalties for that title. Thank you. And so I started writing it about 2022, 23 time. And I had all of the teams I was working with, the team I was in at that time, clients of what is it that they are really struggling with? And it was time. So I made a book for busy people who don't have time to read a book. So
is this something you can sort of dip in and dip out of? And
pick up
nuggets. Yeah.
So Relentless is a business book that has less pages and less words than your average business book. Plus, it's also encouraging you to put it down. So again, going back to the whole kind of counterculture approach, most books will be, I picked it up, you can't put it down, or the thicker it is or the bigger it is, it must be more important. So mine is the opposite, because people just don't feel like they've got the energy or the time to sit there for 3 or 4 hours after a hard day's graft, because they've got to go and pick the kids up, they've got to make dinner, they've got to care for elderly parents, to read a business book to help them be a better leader, a better whatever. So there's 20 odd chapters in there, and each one is 5 minutes. Literally 5 minutes to the point.
Perfect.
So you can literally go to the toilet, read a chapter, And in that chapter, you'll get 2 or 3 little nuggets of ideas that you can then go and try. Like some of the ones we mentioned earlier about like, leave a meeting 5 minutes earlier, or don't be the first person to respond to a group message. That will then start your own little personal revolution and how you can create your own.
And it's not a massive time commitment, is it? 5 minutes to read a chapter.
That's it. That's literally it.
Most people can do that.
And because it's business books can be really boring, so mine is layered with humour and self-deprecation, self-deprecation. So it isn't just necessarily like, oh, this guy has gone and worked in corporate or been an entrepreneur or whatever and then telling me what to do. It is literally mistakes that I've made, issues that other people have seen and been through that I've then pulled in, kind of gone, oh, there's this guy who said that he didn't have time because he was in meetings all week. Great. Here's what a challenge that everyone faces. Here's what this person did.
So it's relatable. Yeah.
Yeah, immediately relatable. And there's ridiculous stories in there as well that people will laugh at. So it gives people that little bit of hope. So for the first time, hopefully, people will pick up a business book and kind of go, I've got time to do a chapter. This will give me a little bit of laugh as well, away from the drudgery and the burnout and the stress and the exhaustion of a hard week that's coming up. So it's a relief, and at the same time, it gives you just enough. You can go back into your work and make your week a little less shit than it was last week.
Yeah, and that's what we all want, isn't it?
That's it.
Where can people find out about the book?
Yeah, so anywhere you would buy books, so Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Waterstones, wherever. So it's wherever you would buy books.
Chris, it's been fantastic today. Really, really enjoyed it, and so many things that resonate with the way that I think and the way I work. So even better from my perspective. Any final thoughts for people before we sign off for today?
Yeah, thank you, Richard. That's been great. So simplification as a competitive advantage might be the way that you work yourself out of burnout, out of stress, out of the drudgery. There's plenty of places that will tell you to do more. So I think now is the time for less. So I had a friend say, what comes next, Chris, for you? And I'd be like, less comes next. So just think about, what is it that I can let go of before I start doing my next thing? And you'll find yourself hopefully having a lot more of a simpler, more meaningful and more fulfilled life and professional approach as well.
Chris Lovett, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you.
This is the business of thinking. Mastery doesn't end here. See you in the next episode.